Welcome guys. In today's video I'll show you the most advanced jiggle techniques as well as how to implement the new fast crouch feature in order to become a better player on the battlegrounds. But first, make sure you leave a like so the algorithm grants you pro PUBG Mobile skills. Let's begin. Jiggle movement basically consists of repeatedly moving your joystick from left to right to throw off your enemy's crosshair. Here's what this looks like from the enemy's perspective. As you can see, from your perspective it doesn't seem like you're moving that fast. Your animation is fluid, but rest assured that your opponent will have a hard time tracking you. For this very reason, many players tend to think that they're lagging, when in reality it is this technique that made them lose the confrontation in the first place. In a close-range engagement, the situation becomes chaotic as both sides fight to maintain control of the reticle while tracking, so the better you know how to move, the more confrontations you will win. There are several types of jiggle movement, but the main ones are three: fast jiggle, normal jiggle, and wide jiggle. Before learning each technique, you have to correctly set the size of your joystick. To do this, use any drawing app. When you're ready, just close your eyes and rest your left thumb on the screen where it feels most comfortable. Now move it to the right. You should have a line like this. On the left is the position where the center of the joystick should be, and the center of the line shows how big it should be. Your joystick is now perfectly calibrated. In the latest update, PUBG Mobile has quietly improved the crouch fluidity. This increases the flexibility of jiggle movements because you can now repeatedly press the crouch button to confuse your opponent. Now you are finally ready to practice the advanced techniques. Fast jiggle. This technique consists of moving your joystick from left to right as fast as possible. Make sure you keep a straight horizontal line and do not deviate vertically. The purpose of moving so fast is to make you an untrackable target. This is how it looks from the enemy's perspective. To practice this technique, prepare the standard training with these settings and shoot your target as you move. Make sure to maintain a constant speed of movement because if you're inconsistent, you will move slower. You can modify the fast jiggle technique by moving the joystick forward. It can be useful primarily for aggressive players. This is how it looks from the enemy perspective. You can also do the same backwards in case you need a defensive retreat. This is how it looks like from the enemy's perspective. Normal jiggle. This technique consists of moving your joystick from left to right at a moderate speed. Therefore, it will be easier for you to precisely maintain the jiggle movement. This is how it looks from the enemy perspective. As you can see, the purpose of this technique is to maintain a decent speed, but it will still cover more space on your opponent's screen so that they have to move their reticle a greater amount. Practice the basic movement of this technique with these standard training settings. You can modify this technique by moving in circles instead of left and right. This will help you maintain more consistency in your movements. The result from the enemy perspective is just as effective, but keep in mind that this only serves as a replacement for the normal jiggle technique. Wide jiggle. This technique consists of holding your joystick from left to right while maintaining long movements to each side. It only works well for specific situations such as an open field close range fight, but it is not useful in closed spaces. This is what the enemy perspective looks like. As you can see, your character is focused on covering as much space as possible in your opponent's screen. This will force your opponent to move his reticle more than is normally expected. Set standard training with these settings to practice this technique. Something that can help you is to count to 3 on each side. This way you'll have more consistency since this is more important with this technique. It's fundamental to maintain precise joystick movement with this technique because any deviation will cause you to move slower than is acceptable. After learning the 3 main techniques of jiggle movement, you can train in Team Deathmatch to reinforce these basic skills. It is important that you master these skills because you will need them for what is coming. Advanced crouch techniques. The crouch button serves an advanced purpose for close-range combat. It has advantages and disadvantages, so it is best to use it wisely. Its main purpose is to avoid headshots and thus force your enemy to adjust his reticle in the middle of combat. Unfortunately, your aim is lowered when you crouch, so you'll have to learn to adjust it quickly. Likewise, your movement speed is reduced while crouching, but the size of your reticle is smaller so the bullet spread is tight, thus increasing your accuracy. You'll have to use the crouch function wisely depending on the situation you find yourself in, as its misuse can win you a free tour back to the lobby. This is why I have divided it into 4 techniques depending on how you want to integrate it to your jiggle movements. Fast crouch. The fastest crouch technique consists of repeatedly pressing the crouch button as fast as possible in order to confuse your opponent during combat. This tends to be very chaotic. Its main purpose is to avoid the enemy reticle, but I recommend only using this mode at 15 meters max because your crosshair moves every time you change posture. It is optimal to integrate it to the fast jiggle technique, that way your movements will be more unpredictable in extreme situations. This is how it looks from the enemy perspective. If you integrate it to the normal jiggle technique, it serves to maintain an unpredictable movement while covering a decent amount of ground in order to make your opponent's life miserable. This is how it looks from the enemy perspective. It is not optimal to integrate it to the wide jiggle technique. Your movements will slow down and it will be more difficult for you to hit your opponent. This is how it looks from the enemy perspective. Alternate crouch. This technique consists of following a specific crouch pattern in order to optimize your character's chaotic animation from the enemy perspective. You're basically going to maximize your opponent's confusion, but this technique is going to be difficult to learn. This is how it looks from the enemy perspective. You can start practicing like this if you want, that way you'll develop the muscle memory necessary to associate each joystick movement with its appropriate change in posture. Here's what it looks like in practice. Follow the pattern as you train until you can memorize it. This is what a complete cycle looks like in slow motion. Now practice with this training exercise. Long crouch. This technique consists of lengthening the crouch movement in a way that your opponent won't expect. It has its own pattern. I'll explain it soon. This is how it looks from the enemy perspective. Basically, all you have to do is repeat the same alternate crouch pattern with the difference that you prolong the time you spend crouching. When you stand, you just quickly jiggle to the other direction and do a long crouch. This order can help you memorize it. Crouch, jiggle crouch. Combined crouch. This technique consists of combining the alternate crouch and long crouch techniques in order to improve your flexibility when moving as needed depending on the situation. This is how it looks from the enemy perspective. This is how it looks in slow motion. You can see that I lengthen the crouch after each normal alternate crouch cycle. Finally, now that you know all these jiggle movement techniques and how to combine them with the right crouch button, it's time to practice your skills with these training exercises. The purpose is to reinforce the basic practice that I have shown you so that these movements feel natural when facing a real opponent. Exercise number 1. Camera control. You're going to move from left to right at a moderate speed while trying to keep your reticle on this structure. This helps you develop good camera control because you'll get used to concentrating on a specific point no matter where you are moving. Exercise number 2. Camera control with tracking. Set up standard training with a moving target and track its position while repeating the same movement from the previous exercise. This will help you maintain focus on your opponent while you're both engaged in evasive movement. Exercise number 3. Target transfer. Train your ability to take on multiple targets at once with this drill. Simply transfer from target to target as you move. Exercise number 4. Target transfer and tracking. Prepare standard training with these settings. This time you're going to train your target transfer skills in conjunction with target tracking. Make sure you position yourself off of the firing range. Exercise number 5. Crosshair aim point correction. Shoot at this target while moving and crouching. Each time you change your posture, you will have to adjust your reticle to compensate for the lower aim point that occurs naturally when crouching. This way you'll learn to keep your sights on the target no matter how many times you change your position during combat. You have to repeat all the techniques that you're going to use with each of the training drills in order to develop good muscle memory and thus win more close range fights. After this, play 20 team deathmatches to solidify your knowledge of the jiggle movement techniques. Make sure you disable both your aim buttons. That way you will only train hip firing in order to speed up your learning under pressure.
Killing spree for the blue team!
Target down! Target down! No mercy! Expire! Nice shot! Great! Nice! Clear! Nice shot! Dead! Target down! Cover me! Dead! Reloading! Target dead! Nice shot! Enemy down! Target down! Kill!
Killing spree for the blue team!
Enemy down! Reloading! Nice shot! Dead! Clear!
Killing spree for the red team!
Enemy down!
Killing spree for the blue team!
Dead! Kill! Enemy down! Cover me! Blue team victory! No mercy! Kill! Expired! Dead! Clear! Target down! Expired! Expired! Nice! Target down! Target down! No mercy! Nice shot! Dead! Cover me! Enemy down! Reload! Enemy down! Reloading! Nice shot! Dead! Reloading! No mercy! Enemy down! Clear! Enemy down!
Tap.
Kill! Kill!
The blue team has scored for the first time!
Target down! Cover me! Enemy down! Down! Cover me! Clear! No mercy! Nice shot! Cover me! Target down!